Okay, so let's take a look a little bit more at what's inside the cell. So we looked at the plasma membrane the last time. So let's keep on moving. So the next thing that we can find inside of our cell is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is what just literally fills the interior of the cell. Okay, so it's kind of like the fluid, right, that's in there. So like the water in your swimming pool, right? So this is what's inside the cell. And it's composed of two things, right? Cytosol, which is kind of gelatin-like. I mean, it's mostly water, right? As you can see, 75 to 90% water. And there's some organic and inorganic stuff that's in there as well. Also floating around in there are organelles. And organelles are going to be important because that's what's actually making the whole cell go, right? That's kind of like the gears in the robot. So the cytoplasm, right, is kind of the liquidy, gel-like material that's in there, and we've got organelles that are floating around. So what are organelles? Well, organelles means little organs, okay? Because again, like I said, this is like the gears in the robot that make the robot go, right? In your body, your organs is what makes you go. In the cell, you've got the organelles that make the cell go. So all of these little pieces come together to make the cell move. And of course, those organelles are surrounded by that cytosol, right? That gel-like substance. We're going to go through each of these organelles, and we can tell them apart from each other, mostly by function, because I think that, to me, that's the most important thing. But you can also tell them apart by size, shape, and structure. But really, that function is kind of the most important thing there. What's interesting, an interesting aside about this, an evolutionary aside, is that the organs in your body, right, it is thought that most of the organs in your body kind of evolved from these organelles, right, from this kind of pattern and structure that we see in the cells, then eventually evolves into larger organs in the body. So it's kind of cool stuff. So we're going to go through the types of organelles. This is going to take a couple of videos because there's a lot of organelles. So let's just start taking a look at them. The first is the nucleus. The nucleus is really important. Remember, this is one of the three things that every cell has. The nucleus is by far the largest organelle, the largest thing inside the cell. Around the nucleus, we have the nuclear envelope. Okay, so I want you to think of it kind of like this, right? So you've got your house, right, with your door, and around that, right, you've got a fence. It's a really bad drawing, but go with me. The fence, remember, is like the plasma membrane, right? And then, you know, in your yard, you might have a little dog house or a swing set, right, for the kids. You might have your car. Oh, God, I got to draw a car. You might have your car parked here. A really bad artist, right? But these are like the organelles, all the things. The nuclear envelope is like the house itself. So on your property, the biggest thing is your house. That's like the nucleus. And the nuclear envelope is like the house structure itself, right? It's keeping the outside separate from the inside. That's what the nuclear envelope does. The nuclear envelope separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm. That's pretty important. Now, there are pores in that nuclear envelope, so it allows materials to move to, in, and out of the nucleus as needed. So if we take a look here at what we have, so if we look, here's our cell, right? In our cell, this is this big purple piece, right? This is the nucleus. That's really important. So if you take a look at the nucleus itself, you can see, right, you've got that nuclear envelope right here on the outside. Okay, so there's your nuclear envelope. And of course, you've got the pores there. This is what it looks like in real life. These are some SEM pictures. So here you can see the nucleus and that nuclear envelope, right, keeping it separate. Now, inside the nucleus, that's where all of your chromosomes are retained. So that's your DNA and protein. So each cell each cell in your bodies, all 75 trillion, have a copy of this right in there. We've got 46 total chromosomes in every nucleus. So, right, 23 pairs, right? They come in twos. And of course, the DNA contains all the instructions, right? As we kind of talked about that in class the other day, the DNA has all the instructions for who you are and what you are. And it has chromatin. We're going to take a look at all that as well. The nucleoli in there contains the RNA. Remember we talked about that, right? The copy machine and the proteins in there. So, let's take a look at another organelle. We have ribosomes. Ribosomes, right, are composed of, they have ribosomal RNA and protein. What happens in the ribosome? This is important. We have protein synthesis. So this is the function. Okay. So the ribosomes make the proteins. That's pretty important. And all this happens in the cytoplasm. So sometimes we can get it happening by itself, or we can have a whole bunch of it happening all together. But let's take a look. Right. So again, like I said, the ribosomes make proteins. Whew, bad handwriting. All right. The next one is the endoplasmic reticulum. We kind of shorten that to ER because that's a really tough word there. The ER, okay, what it does is it's a membrane, right, that extends from the nucleus and it goes out into the cytoplasm. And what it does is kind of like a support system for the cytoplasm. It's like your skeleton is a support system for your body. Kind of the same thing, right? It's kind of keeping it all in place. And it helps move materials throughout the cell, right? So the cell is kind of like a little pool, right? You've got all these organelles floating around in there, and they don't need to float around willy-nilly. They need to have direction. And that's part of what the endoplasmic reticulum does. There's two types, rough and smooth. So let's take a look at those. So if we take a look, first of all, at the cell, right? So there's our cell. Remember, giant purple thing, that's the nucleus. All this green stuff around it, this is the endoplasmic reticulum, right? So you can kind of see, this is what it looks like in real life, right? So you can kind of see that it's this support structure, right? The skeleton that's kind of going out. So the rough ER, right, which is this material, right here. Okay, so it's kind of this long maze-like looking stuff. That rough ER is important because this is where proteins are synthesized. So that's its function. Okay, so that's function. Because I want you to remember functions. That's important. The smooth ER is this rounded stuff, right, that you see right here. And the smooth ER, what it does is it makes lipids. So it makes fats. That's important. Okay. So if we take a look at this picture, I think it's really easy to see the rough endoplasmic reticulum, kind of hard to see the smooth. But these long beads in here, those are the rough endoplasmic reticulum. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one is the Golgi complex, or the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus, so here we are, right, looking back at our cellular view here. There's the nucleus, there's the ER, right? The Golgi apparatus, you can see, is kind of on the outer edge here. And the Golgi apparatus kind of looks like the endoplasmic reticulum a little bit, right? It's got this maze-like look to it. But it's kind of filled with these big sacs. And what it does, right, is it makes these vesicles. Okay? So kind of this, what will happen here is this end will eventually kind of bud off and break off here, and it'll float off like this guy. And what happens is material that's in here, right, this is either mostly usually unwanted material like garbage, and it's put in there, and that it's going to make these secretions, right, these vesicles. You can see it. Let me choose a better color. You can see it down here, and they're going to float away. We're going to see where they're going to go, but they're going to float away, right? So it's like putting the trash in the trash bag. All right, let's take a break there, and then we'll look at the next video at some more organelles.